Right guys, welcome back. You may have come from the video where we sorted out the hazard movement, or you may have come from the first spawn video. So I'm going to kind of do this lesson as if you hadn't done the first spawn video, so that everyone's kind of on the same level. So I'm going to remove the script we did before. The only thing that I've done that was different from the hazard movement is I've created a prefab out of it. If you don't remember how to make a prefab out of it, you essentially just drag it from your level into there. So yeah, everything's the same as it was before. We've got the hazard controller in there. We've changed the speed a little bit just to make it faster. But yeah, we'll do this other spawn generator. We've got spawn generator 1, which is the one I've just done. So we're going to do a spawn generator 2. So if we go to create C# script, spawn generator 2. Right, and what we're going to do here, before we do this, I've made a empty game object called spawn point. So I'm going to move that to here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another 2 of these. I'm just going to press Ctrl and D just to duplicate them. Select them. I'm going to move them a little bit further apart. If you want to be able to see these, by the way, you can select them, go into this, and add an icon to them, which sometimes works. I don't know why. There we go. So you need to zoom in a little bit. I'm not too worried about that. I don't really need to do that for the time being. But yeah, what we're going to do, we're going to jump straight into this script now. We've got our 3 spawn points. That's all we're going to use for this one. So what we're going to do with this generator, 3 spawn points that are going to generate 1 object, random intervals. So if I load in that spawn generator 1, don't need that one. Spawn generator 2, there we go. So load this up. We need to start by declaring 5 variables, I believe, which is the same as the last generator. We ended up with 4 on that one. So first of all, we need our spawn cooldown. So essentially, how often it's going to pause before it kicks out another copy of it. So for this one, I am going to put our public float. That's not export float. And I'm going to call this spawn cooldown. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to randomize this. So for anyone that watched the first video, there's no need to randomize this. You can do if you want, and you can look back at the first video for how to randomize the cooldown time, but this is quite difficult as it is. So if you wanted to get a little bit adventurous, feel free to do that. Next, we're going to show a public game object, and this is going to be our hazard. So this is what's being spawned essentially. The next we're going to do is another public game object, but what we're going to do here is we're going to put an open square bracket and an open and a closed square bracket. And what this does is this essentially says there's going to be more than one of these objects. So we call this an array. So this is going to be my spawn points. After that, we're going to make a private integer, so obviously that's int, and we're going to call this spawn index. And what this is going to do is this is going to assign a number to each of the objects in here because there's more than one, and then from that number it's going to choose one randomly, and that's what's going to get spawned. Actually, tell a lie, that's where it's going to spawn from. Next we're going to have a private game object. This is I'm going to call this current spawn point. What this is the one of these that gets picked from this. Nice and easy. So to start with, I'm going to delete the update function because we don't need it. I'm going to change the start function to being an awake function, and I'm then going to write the spawn function, as that's kind of the one that does a lot of the work. So if we do a function, obviously we start with void, which is function, spawn, open bracket, close bracket, then let's add in an open curly brace, close curly brace, put a little space in there so we've got a bit of room to play with. Right, what we're going to do here, we're going to declare what our spawn index is. because that's not actually going to be a number. We're not going to set that to a number. It's going to decide a number from the amount of objects in here. So I'm going to type in spawn index equals, and then we're going to try and find a random range. So random dot range, which this chooses a random number between a range of two different numbers. So open bracket, so the minimum, I don't need a minimum, it's going to be 0, because it's going to go from 0 up to 2, so it's not really going to matter too much. So 0 has got to be the minimum. 1 could be the minimum, but then the object that's assigned to the 0 integer isn't going to get picked. So comma, and the maximum is going to be however many there are in there. But if you wanted to add some more in, or you wanted to take some out, then we don't want to assign this a number. So what we're going to do is we're going to put spawn points dot length, and this is essentially saying we're going to obviously curly bracket, no bracket close the line with a semicolon. So what this is now saying is the spawn index number is a random number between 0 and the maximum amount of spawn points in the spawn points array. Nice and simple. So underneath this, what we're now doing is we're assigning current spawn point equals spawn points square bracket spawn index square bracket, then semicolon to finish it off. So what we're now saying is the number that's been picked here equals the current spawn point from this list. So if that's number 1, then what you're doing is from this list of spawn points, the one that's number 1, that's what the current one is. Nice and simple. Underneath, what we're going to do is we're going to write the little function that makes it do it. Makes it spawn. So instantiate, if you did the first video, you'll know what this does, but I'm going to do it again, obviously. Instantiate danger, oh no, hazard, sorry, which is this game object here. So hazard, so we've got to declare what's spawning first, and then the transform parent where it's spawning it. So in the other video I did wherever this object is, but this generator is going to be an object on its own. So we're going to go for current spawn point dot transform, because we don't know which of the spawn points it's going to pick, and we set the current spawn point here. So now we know that we're going to find the spawn point, we're going to assign a random number, assign the random spawn point to current spawn, and then create the hazard at the current spawn point. Sounds a lot, but actually it's fairly simple. Right, so under this function here, if you followed the first video, you will know what an IE numerator does. I can never say that word. If you didn't, what it essentially is it's something that does certain functions in like a timer. Essentially, it's where you can say, right, you're going to wait for this to happen, you're going to wait this many seconds before you do this, that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do, we're going to start by typing in IE, we'll find numerator there. I'm going to call this spawn timer, open bracket, close bracket, open curly brace, close curly brace, put a bit of time in between there like we always do. Right, I'm going to add in here at the start a yield return new. So what this is saying is, right, what's going down here? Oh, we're going to wait for so many seconds, then we're going to do this thing. So wait for seconds, and then we need to figure out, right, how long are we waiting for? Could we set a variable to figure out how long it's waiting for? Well, yeah, we have. That's the spawn cooldown. So you want to add in spawn cooldown, close the bracket, close the line. So this is saying, right, wait for this amount of time before you do what you're about to do underneath. So this is going to be nice and simple. We're just going to type in our spawn function, open bracket, close the line, and then after all that's taken place, we want it to start the timer again. So what we need to do here, start coroutine, because this is a coroutine. Open bracket, it knows it needs to start a coroutine it's not sure which one it should do. Obviously it should be the spawn timer. Close the bracket. No, sorry, open bracket, close bracket, end the line with a semicolon. So now what we've got is we've got the spawn timer waiting for so many seconds, spawning, doing this script here, or do this section, then saying, right, start it again. The only thing we need to add now, so as we can see when it gets to the end of this, it does it all again, but we haven't got anything that starts it at the beginning. So it's never going to get started if we do this. So what I'm going to add is in the awake function, I'm going to copy this section here, and I'm going to paste it into there. So at the start, it'll kick this off. It'll never need to go back to here because as soon as it gets to this line, it does it all again. Obviously, the bulk of this script came in the spawn section here. So if I save all, go back into here, I'm going to add an empty object, and this is going to be my generator object. Object. Doesn't matter where in the scene this is because we're going to add in this spawn generator 2 script into there. So the hazard is going to be our prefab, and if we open up spawn points, it wants to know a size. So we have 3 spawn points, so the size is set to 3. Press enter, and then we need to drag in these spawn points into this object. So one there, one there, one there. So, oh, did that wrong. Oh no, I didn't. We signed that colour before, didn't we? So now what we should see when we kick it off, we should see it randomly spawning from these points here. We'll put a spawn cooldown of, I'm just going to put 1 second so we can see it happening. But what we'll see now, if I click play, give it a second to start kicking them in. So here we go. It's going to, God, we got unlucky there. I was worried it wasn't randomizing. But yeah, we can see that it's randomizing there. There we go. We can see a random amount coming in from there. And that's what we want to see. Give it a second just to kick out a few more. My only concern here, and this may be an issue on my part, is we seem to have moved one of them underneath here. So what we need to do, I was getting quite confused then as to how that was happening. Move them all up a little bit. Click play again. Prepared. So there we go. We've got 3 different spawn points kicking in at random times. So obviously if we made these spawn points a little bit bigger, it'd be much more challenging. But yeah, one object spawning from 3 different places at random points. As I said before, if you want these to be at random times as well, then feel free to check out the first tutorial which talked about random times, and that's how it did its spawning. But yeah, the next tutorial I'm going to do is very similar to this, except from all we're going to change is the object. So you can spawn out multiple objects at once, which is useful if you were doing something like a traffic dodging game where you didn't want just the same car constantly coming out or something like that, or you were doing a space game where you had lots of different asteroids flying towards you, that kind of thing. So that's this tutorial. Check out the other one. It's essentially the same, just with a slight difference of the multiple objects spawning situation. Cheers.